Exclusive brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. Speed Stick deodorant and Speed Stick antiperspirant, the #1 for movers and shakers. Chevrolet, one car company has won more NASCAR races over the last 10 years. Genuine Chevrolet. And A1 Steak Sauce. A1, it's how steak is done.
Live shots from the Blimp Spirit, 204 feet long. It's cruising over the speedway at 30 miles an hour. Let's go down to the track once again. Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul Tracy has just climbed out of his Mercedes-Benz Ilmore, and I know this is a huge disappointment, and you had to chase some early problems when it died in the pits early.
Yeah, we had a problem when we left the pits. It was crowded, and I didn't want to get it out there in the middle of the lane, and I stalled it, and then we couldn't get it started, and that put us back, so we were just chipping away, moving up, and then we something wrong with the turbo. We had a turbo fire, so it's disappointing that the Marlboro car's not out there, because I think for sure we could have finished in the top 6 or 7 where we were at, because people were starting to drop out.
Give us an assessment now of this Mercedes power plant and its future, knowing, of course, that it's a one-shot deal this year here at Indy.
Well, it's hard to say. I know Al and Emerson are running good. Their cars were working good in traffic. I couldn't get through the traffic as well as they could, but ultimately I was being really careful. But obviously I hope we can bring it home in first, maybe first and second. But it's disappointing I'm not out there.
Thank you, Paul.
So Paul Tracy out of the race. We'll take a look at the Valvoline lap leaders with Al Unser Jr. leading in the early going. Fittipaldi the leader now.
Now when you buy a case of...
Next Sunday here on ABC Sports, we'll head back to the racetrack as the Indy cars roll into Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Our coverage begins at 4 Eastern, 3 Central and Pacific next Sunday here on ABC. And there is Emerson Fittipaldi. He is the leader of the race as we are approaching the halfway point. In fact, as they cross the line this time, it will be the 250th mile and the green flag. Al Unser Jr. rides in second. In third place now on the leader lap is Jacques Villeneuve. Green is out. Here we go. The second half of the Indy 500 is underway.
When Emerson Fittipaldi came here a couple of weeks ago for the first days of practice, he had just been a pallbearer at Ayrton Senna's funeral. He was obviously shaken the first day he practiced. He just bedded in a few brakes and tires. The next day he came back and has been extremely focused ever since. Emerson Fittipaldi has put everything but the driving of this race out of his mind for 2 straight weeks, and look at the result.
Now, Sam, when you saw all those cars going by at the start, you saw all that paper on the track. Often, that gets up in the radiators. Happens often after a yellow flag like that.
Sam, something else, too, that Emerson told me, something he's never done before. He went back home to Florida for a couple of days last week just to get away from everything and just kind of regroup. And I think he's been focused all this year.
Exactly. He used to rent a house here at the Speedway and stay throughout the whole month. But this year, he's concentrated on the racing.
As we track Scott Brayton and Michael Andretti in their battle for 5th. Raul Boisel heads down into the pits, so that certainly is untimed, unscheduled, and ill-timed. This could mean trouble for Raul Boisel, who runs 10th right now. We'll watch it for just a second here.
Is Boisel destined to be one of the bridesmaids of Indy like Michael Andretti and Roberto Guerrero? Some guys are wonderful here, but they can never win the race.
So Raul Boisel, he's got himself a serious problem there as the rear colling comes off. Nigel Mansell, remember in that incident on our 4th yellow, Jerry Punch is down with Paul Newman, one of the owners of that team.
And Paul, you've just been inside the hospital. What's the update on Nigel Mansell?
Well, he's okay. There's no burns, and I guess he's pretty angry, though. He was in an exit lane, and someone just ran right into him on the yellow. So.
Has he been able to talk to Dennis Vitolo to find out exactly what may have happened?
I have no idea, no.
Okay, Paul Newman just exiting the hospital. Fortunately, the good news, Nigel Mansell not burned and appears to be okay. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And up near the north end of the pits, Marco Greco, another of the rookies from Brazil, out of the race, mechanical engine problems. How about your first experience, Marco? I know you're disappointed, but it had to be a great thrill.
Well, it was a great experience. We got a 94 car on Friday, so we practiced with the 94 car. I got the engineer on Sunday morning, and we put the car on the field. Crew did a great job, and I was really happy. Unfortunately, during the race, things can happen, and we had a bad valve. But I was really happy to be here, and I look forward for next year to be back.
We look forward to seeing you as we go to Jackaroo.
Well, Gary, a problem with Raul Boisel after doing so well in the early going. The engine is overheated. The radiators are just steaming as they've taken the side pods off. It's going to be a long stop for this man.
Well, there's what Bobby Unser was suggesting just a few minutes ago. Debris on the track. Most race fans, boy, there you got a shot of debris. That looked like heavy debris.
And of course, everything just wants to go to the radiators because they designed the cars to suck in the air there.
So on board Michael Andretti, here is the Valvoline race summary for those of you entered in the Valvoline Indy500 giveaway. Wait a minute. Let's see if we can get to Nigel Mansell.
Nigel Mansell. Here we go.
Yes or no? Jerry, go ahead.
Here in the garage, here back at the hospital, Nigel Mansell has come out of the infield care center. Nigel, first of all, are you okay?
I don't feel great. I got a bit of concussion, and I've just upset all the medical people because they want me to go to the hospital, and I don't. So if they want to take my license away, that's fine with me, because I've never seen anything such a joke as what we just had out there. We were under yellow for a lap and a half. Someone tries to take my head off.
Have you spoken with Dennis Vitolo, Nige, to see exactly what went on, what happened?
You speak to him.
Obviously, it upset Nigel Mansell, holding his right shoulder. And they wanted him to go down to Methodist Hospital for x-rays, but as you heard Nigel say, he would have no part of that. He has climbed in the golf cart, and he and Carl Haas, Paul Newman and company will head back to Gasoline Alley. Paul?
An understatement to suggest that Mansell is furious. Now, let's do the Valvoline race summary. For those of you entered in the Valvoline Indy500 giveaway, the leader at 100 laps, halfway, Emerson Fittipaldi. Stay tuned for the results at the end of the race. Cautions today, 4, accounting for 31 laps. But one of those cautions, the last, actually covered one incident under green when Masuda got into the wall, and then John Paul after the yellow, and then Vitolo and Nigel Mansell after the yellow. So one yellow flag covering 3 different incidents.
Okay, Paul, you know, I can understand Nigel. First of all, you're out there racing. You're putting everything into it. We've seen a lot of accidents. Everybody's dodged the bullet a little bit. Mansell just missed that accident with the Japanese fellow that spun, and now he goes and he's cooling off. He's just driving around. He's on the warm-up lane, and somebody clobbers him. That's not when you expect to have anything happen. You regroup, and it's dangerous enough out there under race speed. I can understand why he's angry, and he doesn't even know why it happened.
Danny, do you think that's a prelude to a return to Formula One? He really looked disgusted.
Well, you know, with everything going on, you never know with Nigel if he decides that that's a reason to get out of it. Things haven't gone well for him this year, or as well as he'd like to, defending champion. He might just decide this is his chance to exit.
Well, you know, my opinion, you two guys, is that he's a professional. He doesn't think what happened is reasonable, and I don't either, but by the same token, that'll never change his way of thinking.
So the answers now need to come from Dennis Vitolo. As soon as he is available, we are going to try to talk with him. We watch Michael Andretti. Scott Brayton is closely pursuing him, trying to close in. There comes Brayton.
Because I think we also have to be fair, Paul, to Dennis. We don't know what happened to him to cause him to hit Nigel. He might have had something break. He could have had a puncture just like John Paul did. We just don't know what caused that accident.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we want to talk to him. So the 3 cars that matter, Michael Andretti, then the yellow car of Scott Brayton, and then Jimmy Vasser just behind Scott. They are beginning to close in on a battle for 5th.
Last year, only 4 cars were out at half distance. This year, 12 cars out at half distance. A return to the carnage of 1993, but luckily without the injuries, at least so far.
You know, we talked at the beginning of the up and down years of Bobby Rahal. Last year was terrible. He didn't even make the race. Right now, he's running in 4th place, and Danny Sullivan, as we look off the front of Rahal's car, twice in this race, he has missed being involved in a major incident.
Let me tell you, Bobby's having one of those days where luck is shining on him. everything seems to be happening right in front of him, and he just scoots his way through it and misses all the debris and the damage. And I know he's counting his blessings. But the good part is he's running right behind Eddie Cheever and in front of Al Unser Jr., and nobody's changing position, and Al's not really closing on him. He's running a very strong race, even though he's a lap down.
And look at that great run up through the field. Let's go down to the track medical center and Jerry Punch.
Unfortunately, this man has seen much of the field today. And Henry Bach, Dr. Bach, what's going on inside the hospital? What's the update?
Everybody's been released at this time, Jerry. Mr. Vitolo, Mr. Matsuda, Mr. Paul have all been released in good condition. They had some minor bruises, but they've been released in good condition. Mr. Mansell, our exam was not complete before he walked out the door. I believe you probably spoke to him, so I really have no report on his condition.
Nigel said you wanted him to go down to get some x-rays on his shoulder, but he sort of disagreed with that.
I was more concerned that he was a little foggy about some things when he came in. I was more concerned he may have a little head injury, but we'll never know that, I guess.
Thank you, Hank. I think Nigel Mansell was crystal clear with regard to what he thought happened on the racetrack.
All right, here is Bobby Rahal. He runs in 4th place. The leader of the race is Fittipaldi, followed by Al Unser Jr. and Jacques Villeneuve. Rahal runs in 4th as we look at the last lap average for him. We'll be back with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're back at Indianapolis, 115 laps of 200 complete. This was just a few moments ago. Eddie Cheever, watch him as he moves to the outside. Danny Sullivan brushing the wall.
Amazing. He had been running high, and I'd been watching him, but I couldn't believe that he ran that high. And that's on an entry. That's not even on an exit. So he's setting up for turn 2 right there and wanting to get all the road.
And the car behind him then was Bobby Rahal, who once again came very near to being involved in an incident.
All right, let's go back to the medical center. Jerry Punch.
John Paul Jr. just walking out, and JP, you almost made it by Matsuda without a problem.
Well, he crashed, and we must have ran over something because we got down to turn 3 trying to catch up to the pace car, and it blew the tire out and just swapped ends right away, and that's the way it goes.
John Paul Jr., okay, here in the garage area. We'll head back toward his garage, guys.
Okay, interesting there, too. Bobby, he said he was trying to catch up to the pace car, so he must have been on the gas pretty hard trying to make up some ground.
Right, Danny, but you know, if he was just doing 120, when you only have one tire driving, boy, it's spin out time.
Well, that's true, but you know, the good part is it probably happened before. If he had waited, he might not have gotten that until the restart under green.
Here's Scott Brayton, who is running in 5th place as he rolls onto the pit road.
In the cockpit of car number 12.
Under the green light with 117 laps complete. Everything here appears routine. Well, fairly casual in that stop, Bobby.
Yeah, that's about the slowest pit stop I was going to say that I've ever seen. There's other problem. They're just doing some talking. Now the hood's coming off.
Yeah, I was going to say he didn't even look like he came down the pit lane at 100 miles an hour either.
All right, we watch the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, but the questions are all to Dennis Vitolo, and Jack Arute has him.
Well, Dennis has found his way back to Gasoline Alley, and Dennis, when Nigel Mansell came out of his car and out of the hospital, he didn't have the kindest of things to say about you. Give us your version of the accident.
Well, there's really only one version. This is the hardest thing to say, but it is. It was my fault. I came into off the back straight down at the pit lane and was just a little bit too quick. Got caught out and ran into the back. I think it was John Andretti. And that launched my car up, and I collected Nigel. Unfortunately.
Early on, you had another close call, and that was the spin. Describe that sensation.
Yeah, the car was very good at the start of the race, and I was able to stay up with everyone. Things were going real. Then the car kept getting looser and looser, and then I got caught out and spun. We came back in, we made a change, and the car was good again for a while, and then got loose again. Then that last pit stop, we made 2 changes, and the car was much